I've wanted to make this video for a while now, and I haven't. And I think most of the reasons why I haven't revolve around fear. And I refuse to let fear run my life, so I decided it's time. Let's make the video about what happened to my family. Now, this video is gonna talk a little bit about abuse, so I just wanted to give you a heads up for anyone watching who may be sensitive to that. Okay, for you to fully understand why I'm glad my dad left, I need to tell you my story. I was born in Pennsylvania, and I was one of 5 kids. I have 2 older sisters, and then a younger sister and a younger brother. That makes me the middle child. Now, while we were from Pennsylvania, we moved to Virginia while I was in elementary school. Now, growing up in Virginia, everything seemed completely normal to us, our whole family dynamic, because that's all that we had known. That was everything that we were used to. But while things seemed normal, they definitely were not. My father at the time worked from home, and for most kids, that's probably a dream situation. But it wasn't for us. My siblings and my mother didn't know that our father had demons that he had been battling with his whole life. And while I have completely forgiven him, what happened is still what happened. My family ended up experiencing a lot of abuse, and the abuse took different shapes. But it was mostly physical, emotional, and sexual. Now, I want to spare the details for everyone involved and for their own privacy, but basically the situation crescendoed into my father being removed from our house. My siblings and I were sent to counseling for a few years, and we ended up fighting my biological father in court for over half of a decade. Now, I tell you all of that, okay, and it seems depressing, but now let me tell you how God used my family completely falling apart to create a chain reaction of events that brought my life together in the best way possible. But in order to do that, I need to give you 3 separate pieces of this grand story so it all makes sense. Piece number 1 is baseball. So growing up, we were homeschooled, and my biological father didn't really want us participating in activities outside of the house, like baseball. So once my father was removed from the picture, I started playing baseball. And I loved it. For 7 years, baseball became my everything. I became completely obsessed with the sport, and it was my goal to make it to the MLB. However, about a year before college baseball tryouts began, I tore the rotator cuffs in my right shoulder, which forced me to give up baseball. Okay, piece number 2 of the story, Vine. Okay, so once I was forced to quit baseball, I had a lot of time on my hands, and with that time, I started making Vines. Now, some of you may already know my story with Vine, and some of you may not. For those who do not, I recommend you watch this video right up here, because that will give you some context. But yeah, I started Vine, and just like baseball, it became very important to me. My account started growing very quickly, and before I knew it, I was approaching 100,000 followers. I started getting emails about brand deals and emails about working with different companies, and I was incredibly excited, and I thought that my career was going to bloom out of the Vine app. But then the platform started to die. The fad faded, I guess, and people just started leaving the app. And then all the Viners started quitting, so I quit too. But during my time on Vine, I received countless amounts of messages from people saying that somehow they found my content and it encouraged them, even to the point where people said my content encouraged them enough to talk them off the ledge of ending their lives. So while I was sad to leave Vine, it was clear that God had used my time on the platform to encourage others. Okay, piece number 3, ChickFilA. Okay, so during my last year on Vine, I started working at ChickFilA. And just like baseball and just like Vine, ChickFilA became a very big part of my life. I became crazy about ChickFilA at one point. So much so that I actually joined their corporate training team. I opened up the first 2 international ChickFilA franchises, and then I also opened up 30+ stores in the United States. So yeah, I was kind of into it. However, where this fits into the story is that I never would have moved from Virginia to Tennessee if it wasn't for ChickFilA. I actually moved to Tennessee mostly for ChickFilA. Okay, so now that I've given you those 3 completely random stories about my life, let me string them all together for you now so you can see how crazy this whole chain reaction is. If my father hadn't been abusive and removed from our family, then I never would have been able to start baseball. If I never got to start baseball, I never would have torn my rotator cuffs. And if I never tore my rotator cuffs, I never would have quit baseball, and I never would have started Vine. If I never started Vine, I'm not sure if I ever would have gotten over all of the insecurities that plagued me as a kid. And if I never started Vine, the people that were encouraged by my content in very dark moments never would have found my content. Now stay with me. If Vine never died, I never would have quit Vine and started Chick-fil-A. And if I didn't work for Chick-fil-A, I wouldn't have moved to Tennessee. Now that may have all just been a whirlwind, okay? So let me simplify for you. God uses all of the garbage that happens in our lives to guide us. An abusive father abandoning his family should have been the end of a tragic story, but it wasn't. My rotator cuffs tearing should have been the end of a terrible story, but it wasn't. Vine dying and me losing the platform that I had worked so hard on should have been the end of a terrible story, but it wasn't. What I've found is that if you can be patient during your current season of life, regardless of how good it is or how terrible it is, you might someday realize why God let it happen the way that he did. I am so genuinely content and so happy with my life. Now, did God allow me to experience a bunch of pain to get to where I am now? Yeah, 100%. But now that I'm here, can I see and understand the purpose behind all the pain that I went through? Yeah, 100%. Now I can look back and I am thankful that my rotator cuffs snapped. I'm thankful that Vine died and I lost that whole following. I am thankful for a father who could not be the man that he was supposed to be. So through that, God could show me the man that I'm supposed to be. Okay, listen up. If you are on a mountaintop right now, or if you are in a valley, God has a plan for what you are going through. And whether you like it or not, it is a critical part of your story that you need. So don't despise the season that you're in right now just because you don't understand it. God knows what he's doing, and whatever is going on in your life, he has a purpose for it. So if you get anything out of this video, I hope that you can walk away from this video with your palms up saying, hey God, I don't know why you have me going through what I'm going through right now, but I know you're gonna use it for my good. Because that's true. That's just how he works. So next time that God allows you to experience something difficult, I encourage you to pause and just be present where you are. Because sometimes God has to completely ruin the plans that we thought were good so he can show us something that is so much better. Okay, I'm gonna start preaching. But anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video right here will actually help give more context to this whole story. So I definitely suggest watching that one next. But if you were encouraged by this video, please share it with a friend and then consider subscribing if you want to see more stuff like this. And with that said, I will see you guys next time.